are some of the biggest cultural challenges that you face with reaching the people there?
Okay, thank you. I'm going to answer this one. You can
Yes,
just.
go
All
ahead. Time out. I'm on time.
right. So it's funny because people, when we think about doing missions in other countries, we think about usually what we go to is, oh, what's the religion there? Like, what are we going against as far as religion wise?
Mm.
And you go to Japan, it's like, oh, Shinto Buddhism. That's not the case. That's not what you're up against. You are up against Japan.
Being Japanese.
That's the
Yeah.
cultural challenge because Japan is very homogenous. You know, I don't know the percentage. I'd probably say like 95% of the country is Japanese, and Japan is like, we are for the betterment of this country. They're open to foreigners. They welcome foreigners. They will be friendly to foreigners. But there's this phrase that I've thought about, I come up with. It's called crossing the bridge, which basically is, if you're trying to reach another culture, you want to do as much as you can to cross the bridge to connect with them. You could do. She wants to. She's got numbers for me.
97.
97. Oh, it's close. Okay, so
97.5.
hey, come on now. That's what I'm talking about. So, in Japan, you can do as much as you can to cross the bridge to a Japanese person. You can know the language, you can know the nuances and what to do when and like how to bow and when to bow. You can do everything 100% and you will never be seen as a Japanese person.
Mhm.
You will never be able to
Yeah.
get to that place where someone will see you.
You can be born and
You
raised
can be
here.
born and raised here. You can have
A Japanese
Japanese
passport.
passport. Like you, but your blood runs red with the love of Japan. Born here, and it's like, no, you are still
Mhm.
out. You are still an outsider,
Mhm.
and that's the challenge. Um, and
Yeah.
one of the reasons, and it's a plus for us in a sense that it helps us connect with other foreigners because to one another.
Mhm.
We may be from different countries, speak different languages, but we are all trying to do this thing, which is Japanese culture. And so we've kind of worked that to our advantage to where like we invite people from different cultures to our house as well, as long along with other Japanese people. And so um and so I in the 7 months that I've been here, I've kind of learned that like there's always going to be that challenge, and I'm never going to be seen as Japanese as much as I want to be in order to try to help people come to a knowledge of Christ. And so I've made
Yeah.
my peace with that. I said, one, I'm not trying to be Japanese, and two, I don't know if I want to be because
Mhm.
there are not so many. There are minuses to Japanese culture that
Yeah.
that are detrimental to the culture. There's this one that comes to mind is just the work-life balance. We have friends here who
Mhm.
work, 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week. Long days. If you got to work overtime,
Some don't get paid for
you
overtime.
don't get paid for overtime, and people leave stressed out. I've heard stories. I've seen stories. People work 17 hours. They go to work at 8 a.m. They don't get off till 3 a.m. They they go to work. Work is over. They know they can't go home and get any rest because they got to come right back in like 5 hours. So they pull out a blanket and they go to sleep under the desk. People have it's been so bad where people have died due to being overworked. Like that's one of the things that is part of Japanese culture. The thing is, you are to work for the betterment of this country, and I'm happy to see like things are slowly. slowly changing. The culture is kind of getting aware. They're getting worn out by, the thing, the culture. So they're wanting things to change, and that's good. But there's just this idea that you need to do do everything to such a level that's almost out of human reach.
Mm.
Like you just got to stretch yourself so thin to where like you're almost broken. So that's as far as like our pastor. We're talking to her a couple days ago.
Mm.
She said she's teaching a discipleship class about boundaries because it is very hard for Japanese people to say no. So you
Yeah.
ask someone for something and it's like
I have to say
you
yes.
yeah, you have to say that. It's like there's a word for Japanese and that means no, but you'll rarely ever say it because it just comes off so rude. Like you have to say no in other ways. You can't say no. You gotta be like,
I even hear more people say like the term for "it's okay"
yeah,
in ref and
daijou-
ref and ref
daijoubu.
and re like it's okay instead of just saying no.
No, yeah. And so so
Yeah.
what she explained was people will present themselves, and this is another part of
The
the
culture.
culture. People will present themselves. They'll put on a face, and they'll say yes,
Yeah.
but inside
They're holding bitterness.
there's this bitterness that's building, and there's
Yeah.
rarely a way to let that out. And we all know, a lot of us in these Western countries, we know that negative emotions they have to go somewhere,
Mhm.
and it'll come out in some way, be it and it has come out here in Japan, domestic abuse,
Mhm.
excessive drinking, promiscuity.
It's those secret addictions we were talking
Yeah.
about earlier.
And so if people don't have a way to let out these emotions, they'll come out in these extreme ways. And so she's teaching people that it's okay to say no. It's okay to set up these boundaries because you're trying to protect yourself, but you're also trying to protect the people around you.
Yeah, and I really admire her for doing that
Yeah.
because, she
Yeah.
is a Japanese pastor. So she's Japanese herself and she's teaching,
Mhm.
discipling other Japanese saints with this principle of boundaries, but not from because it's a Western concept, but because it's a biblical one. And so I think that's really cool,
Yeah.
that she's introducing this concept that is probably really foreign and hard to
Mhm.
understand for local Japanese people, but she's teaching it because it's
Mhm.
a Christian principle,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I think in the
Yeah.
also in the sense of actually trying to talk to people about Jesus. I think you brought up just the social aspect because people are really friendly. First of all, like they'll have a conversation with you. They'll ask you, where you're
They're
from, why you're
curious.
here, and they're curious stuff. And so what I find here is it's
Mhm.
easy to have acquaintances. It's hard to have friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I'll talk with a
Mhm.
Japanese person, like we'll have a good, 10-15 minute conversation. We'll do, and I'm like, oh hey man, you want to exchange contact information, all this stuff, it's cool. And then I'll text them, hey man, you want to go out and go coffee? I got like I'm working late. I was like, okay, cool, maybe next time. I'll text them again, hey, you wanna, go out
Yeah.
coffee, you wanna hang out? I gotta go be with my family or something. And and this has happened maybe like
Yeah.
5 or 6 times,
Hmm.
just trying to just build relationships with someone,
Mhm.
and I have to honor it as legitimate, but there are some times where I
Yeah.
think you're just doing the Japanese thing where
Yeah,
you don't
yeah,
want to say
yeah.
no.
It's reading between the lines. It's like
Yeah.
no, they don't want to tell you no, but
Hmm.
they mean no.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have one of the classes here where we visited like the synagogue, the cathedral, and like a mosque, and like we even spoke to like a representative about like Sikhism and Hinduism, and like how to like reach those communities, and like the biggest thing is like trying to build those connections and like building those
Yeah.
friendships, but
Hmm.
it's not always the easiest thing because like yeah, people are lonely and they're looking for friends, but sometimes they're so used to that like way of life that again like reaching out and like it's such a foreign idea and concept to so many people. So that's more of like the like deeper side, but like can you guys share one of your like success stories while being there? Like is there like a testimony in your time while you've been there where you're like this has not only impacted like their life but like your life as well?
So here's the thing, right? So in Japan, it's one of those countries where um things take time, right?
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
our success stories, testimonies probably won't sound like some other parts of the world where it's like we baptized 500 and whatever. I don't know. Something crazy like that. In the time just because I'm all about keeping it real, right? So in the time that we have been here, we have not seen someone get baptized. We have not seen someone receive the Holy Ghost. However, our success stories maybe look a little bit different to some, right?
And
Mm,
I'll help you because someone taught me this a couple months ago. Is like you sometimes you have to redefine what
what success?
what success looks like because not every country is the same.
Hmm.
So continue.
Yes, exactly. And so for us, we count these things as huge wins. One, when we're able to cross that bridge somehow, right? Because people will only let you in so far, right? And And for us, when we've been able to successfully and authentically create those relationships, those friendships with people in which um, now we're doing life together. It changes from acquaintance to semi we're doing life together. I would at least say that that's what it looks like, right? Um, then I count that as a success, right? So in a lot of our people that come through now, there's been people who come through our game nights and they're still in that acquaintance level. They come every once in a while, they enjoy their time,
Yeah.
and then that's basically it. See you next month, right? Or whenever they decide to come back around. But there are some in between all that that you can tell that having the friendship that we do has meant a lot. And and so
Yeah.
what we pray a couple things when people come into our home. One, we prayed for this home. We prayed for a home that would be big enough for us to host gatherings in. And we got that. God gave that to us, right? And so we pray over our home that people will feel peace, that people will feel him, and even in ways that they don't know it, right? So like they're coming in and we're just vessels, God, right? So that people can
Yeah.
see you through us, right? We're just vessels. And so some of those testimonies for me that have meant a lot, we had a young man who came and you can just tell that, when he saw our Bible, our Japanese Bible, and just in the
Living
on
room.
our living room, and he looked at it, he's like, is that a Bible? And we're like, yeah, and he's just like, oh, like, he starts just asking questions about it, right? And so even little things like that, there's a curiosity, right? Those are wins in our eyes, right? We don't
Yeah.
push religion, okay, on people when they're here, because we respect that people are at different places and have different existing
Yeah.
beliefs.
And to
But
be
I
to
was gonna,
oh
can I say something?
yeah, go.
Yeah. So we don't push those things at
Yeah.
all, right? But we are very authentically us
Yes.
still,
Yeah.
right? And so one thing that we do, and we always, if we have someone new around, we do ask respectfully, like, hey, is this okay? And we pray over our food, right? And so anytime, if it's the same people, they just already know. But if it's someone new there, we say, oh, we usually pray over our food. Is that okay? Is that okay with you? Usually it's like, yeah, 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 that's fine. And I remember one time, so kind of conviction here. One time we had someone join who was Japanese, and I think we felt maybe a little awkward, like maybe we shouldn't do that in front of them or be kind of very. And we were about to dig in or just do the itadakimasu. And our friend who's there, who has been coming to game nights for a while, she says, "Are we not gonna pray?" And I said,
Yeah,
"Yes,
oh,
we
oh
are.
yeah,
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 oh,
yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah."
so, yeah, of course. Oh.
And so, they start to recognize that this is what we're about. And one of the same person that asked about the Bible and everything, there's just different things that have come around where he's not been able to come around as often. But he's even like reached out to James and has said, can we please still be friends?" And I would just love, I really appreciated the friendship that I have with you and your wife. And, I really enjoy what I feel. This is what we hear a lot. We enjoy what we feel in your home. And
Yeah,
they may not know what that means, but to us, we're like, they feel God. That's what we've prayed, that they feel the peace of God, that they feel something different in our home. And we have gotten that from multiple people.
yeah.
And even this past week, 2 weeks ago now. I'll share this story.
Yes, because I'm gonna
Um,
do it.
oh, you were gonna do
No, but go ahead,
it? Okay.
because I'm gonna do it.
Um, so a couple weeks ago, someone came to our game nights, and now this person, without, I'm trying to be,
That's great.
discreet with information. Um, so this person's Muslim, right? And comes to our home, and right around this time we Ramadan has just finished, right? So at this point, they
Yeah.
had what they call the night of power, which is they pray for um all night, and they're usually searching for like just a deeper relationship with God. Sometimes they'll bring in certain specific prayers. And so
Can I add just
Yeah.
yes,
a
yes, go
bit?
ahead.
So we had met him like a few months before,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
like we would text, back and forth, he and I, and he and I would invite him. He's like, "Oh, I'm about to start Ramadan." And it's
Hmm.
like, because I'm about to start like fasting. So I was like, "Okay, man, cool.
Hmm.
I'll see you at the end of Ramadan."
Hmm.
And we go to this community thing,
Hmm. He's
and
there
he's there, and and he said, he said, "Hey, I think I'm gonna try to come over on
to your thing
Friday
on Friday.
He's like, but I'm gonna be fasting that day. Like,
Will you fast
can
with
you
me?
fast with us? Can you fast with me?" And we're like, "Yeah, of
Yes.
course. Like we fast,
We fast, so
yeah,
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 let's
yeah,
do it. Yeah, we'll
yeah."
break fast.
So like you'll come over and we'll break fast together. It's cool. And so
Yeah, so he comes over. We have a great time. Most of the rest of the guests leave, and he
yeah,
kind of lingers, and we're having a great time. We're talking about different things, and
because they
basically,
had came over and they walked past the office and
yeah,
they're
they
like,
saw our setup here, and they wanted to kind of like play with the mics and
yeah.
everything,
And
and
so like
you know,
he and I were just like messing
chatting.
around and chatting
Yeah.
and stuff. And I asked him, because I was like, what do I talk about? What are you doing? And so it was like casual conversation at first, but then I just asked him like, so how did you come to become Muslim? Just like,
Hmm.
what was that?
What's your faith journey been,
Yeah, what's your faith
basically?
journey been? So he explained that to me, and
Mhm.
like,
He
you know,
shared a little bit of his
yeah,
life, and he wasn't raised Muslim, but he's been on the search for God, and so he basically he landed in this space where now he's Muslim, right?
yeah,
He landed with Islam. But we're having this whole conversation, and through it, I mean, the conversation just gets deeper and deeper about faith and talking about, mutual respect and similarities in our faiths and everything. And of course, then eventually I see the prime opportunity to kind of slip in there the fact
Yeah.
that we aren't Trinitarian believing Christians. And when he
Mhm.
hears that, obviously, as someone who is proclaiming to be Muslim, he is like floored because that is like the main reason why they, make that huge distinction. And so he starts telling us, I started realizing that there were, monotheistic believing Christians out there after I came into Islam. And I even thought to myself, did I convert too soon or something? Did you remember hearing him say
yeah,
that? And
yeah,
he was like, but he's like, I knew they were out there, but I never thought I would meet someone that was a monotheistic Christian in real life. And he was like, but I've been praying that God would send me these types of Christian friendships. And so he said, on the night of power, I prayed that God would lead me to people like you. And here we are 2 days later, and he has led me to you guys. I believe this is a God encounter. And so he automatically just like clings on to this. He receives this as a answer to his prayers in the night of power that God has connected us. Now we already knew each other, but he is talking about this connection now.
Yeah.
And his
Yeah.
girlfriend, he is a born and raised uh uh
He's non-Japanese,
he's not Japanese ethnically. He's
but he was born.
Filipino
Mhm.
ethnically, but he was born and raised in Japan. And so he's brought up here. His girlfriend is Japanese, and she is
Yeah.
in her own faith journey, but with Christianity. And so he's like, I want my girlfriend to connect with you guys, to meet you. I want to.
Yeah.
He said, are there more of you out there?" We said yes. Everyone in our church it believes like this. Like this is
Mhm.
who we are. He said, I need to meet your friends. I need to meet these people who you say believe
Yeah.
like you. And so again, these are what our success stories look like because I believe God is drawing people, right? And
Mhm.
they're just
Yeah.
being vessels. So every time that we have these conversations in which we just know, we see that there's just a step going further and further into their walk with God. Like with this young man, I believe God is doing something powerful in his life and he is leading him to full truth, right? And I believe he is hungry and he's sincere about his searching. And so I do believe our paths crossed for that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With some of these other young people who come into our house who express, they feel something different. I have never been into someone else's home. I feel something different. I almost forget I'm in Japan because, there's something different. And they just keep saying that word. There's something different about, oh, I just feel
Yeah.
so at home here. Some of them say, oh, I don't know why. I keep coming over because I just feel so at home. We recognize it is
Yeah.
not us. It is not us that they feel. It is not
Yeah.
us that they why they keep coming back. The Spirit of
Mhm.
God is drawing them back time and time again. And
Yeah.
that is what it means to be the church, right?
Amen.
We don't have to bring them into the building. We just need to bring them into his presence. And when we
Yeah.
Mhm.
ask for his presence to be and dwell in this home and they come into our home and they feel something different and they proclaim to feel something different, we know that that is God, right? We know that God is doing something in their lives.
Mm.
And so it's a slow moving process. And as my husband said, it's all about learning to reframe successes. Because we could get discouraged
Yeah.
and say, oh, well, I haven't seen, we've been here for 7 months and we haven't baptized anyone. But no, God is working in people's hearts. And when you're working with a culture where there it's just such a it's just such a different culture where you're working with a culture that's not really familiar with church, even within the foreigners. They a lot of them, especially the ones that have been here for a while, they have, even if they come from more Christian nations, they have been away so long that they have adapted to this concept of just not really, religion's not even a really existing thing. Now, I have a few friends who are Mexicans married to Japanese who claim to be Buddhists, right? But they only really go to the temple for New Year's. And when they, ask for like those like specific holidays, right? New Year's is the only one I can really think of right now. But it's not like there's like this devotion, mm, like
Mhm.
of it, their life gets busy. Life gets busy, and so concept of religion is just very, very different here. So you work with that. You work with that. What's the scripture? That Acts, um, is it
Mhm.
2:39?
Mm.
Mm,
Mm.
Am I right? Am I right? I don't know. A principle, where we're breaking bread, we're doing life with people,
Oh, okay.
and
Yes.
Yeah.
that is the biggest form. of how we're doing
I'm gonna.
ministry. And I think I do this. I constantly go into the next question. So just take it away, Becca. Unless
That's amazing though, because it's like, yeah, it's about the baptisms, but it's also about those connections. It's making sure people feel like welcome. They feel like God's presence, like with you living like just your life regularly. When we went to the mosque, like the biggest thing the guy who was giving us the tour told us is like making sure you're not forcing it, like you're making that connection, like let them know you serve one God, and like them seeing you live your life dedicated towards him, because like they have all these practices, and like they're very much so like they pray how many times a day, like about like the meditation, but like when they know like they serve one God, they see your dedication, it it inspires them, like it moves them, like forming that bond is what's really, it's just like wow, it's like amazing.
yeah, and the biggest thing for me is that I always wanted I believe God is working in the lives of each and every one of the people that we're involved with right now, right? Now, it's up to them to take the steps to make the choice. God doesn't force anybody, right? So at the end of the day, God could be working in their lives, could be showing them the path, and they can still choose to not follow.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
that's just how it works. But the thing is this, right? I ask God to make me a vessel, right? I am just a vessel. It is all Him. Um, but regardless if these people choose to take the step to live for God
Mhm.
or not, I never want
Yeah,
them to question my intentions with my
exactly.
friendship and relationship with them. I genuinely, because I have the love of God in me, I genuinely love these people so much. Each and every one of them. I love them.
Yeah.
And I never want them to question that I may have some
Mhm.
ulterior motive as to why I'm building friendship with them. Because I just
Yeah.
love them. And you know what? And I can admit it's the love of God that drives me to love them, right? But at the end
Yeah.
of the day, like I just love them full stop. That's how God has taught me to love. With no ulterior motive, just love them, right? And then I know that God is, working behind the scenes doing his thing, but at the end of the day, they still
Yeah.
have their choice, right?
Yeah.
To
Okay,
show
that's way of shutting me up.
the way and enable me to say yes,
Yes, it worked. Okay.
yes,
All right.
yes.
Take it away, Becca.
No, you didn't write that down though, because she said you don't have to bring them into the house of the Lord. You just got to bring them into His presence, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I believe there's going to
Yeah.
be people who are going to be in His house, but you got to make sure that you're doing work outside of the four walls as
Mhm.
well. And
Yeah.
yeah, in Acts 2:42 it says, and they devoted
42.
themselves to the apostles' teaching and the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and prayers. And yeah, we're just trying to embody that.
Mm-hmm.
Next question, please.
Okay, your next question is, what does a typical day in your life look like?
You look at.
It's different every day.
So we'll
Yeah.
do. I'll do you one better. I'll give you a week. Okay. So
Okay.
I'll give you this week.
I don't know.
So this week was.
Like, what happened this week? Let's
So
hear it.
Sunday we went to church.
Typically have
We
two services. There's the English service and the
English
Japanese
service and
service.
Japanese
So
service.
sometimes we're helping with the English service. Sometimes when we're in the English service, sometimes we just attend and we're like a fellow saint worshiper of the Lord. Sometimes we help teach in the English service, and then sometimes we're in the Japanese service, like we were this past week,
And where we led worship.
and we lead worship for the Japanese service, and we help with the media, basically, like helping the streaming because we have a lot of people join online and that kind of thing. So that was
So
Sunday.
and Monday
Monday,
we go to Japanese
go
class.
to Japanese
We
school.
started our new semester
Hmm.
to this week. It was very very fun, very enjoyable, and we try to make new acquaintances there. And we did. We
Yeah,
we met two people
a
who
couple
were
who's from
from one's from Scotland
One's from England.
and one's from England, and they are, trying. They're traveling through Japan, and they're going to be here for the next few months. And we are just,
Befriended them
yeah,
and went
befriended
out
them.
to
Went out to
lunch
lunch,
with them.
talked with them, and
A lot of building
a lot of
connections.
building connections
Yeah,
happen
being
In
friendly.
Japanese.
Yeah.
Tuesday,
What
we
did you learn in Japanese class?
this past week we did prepositions, just
Oh,
knowing when to use them, knowing which ones, and that was good. Just had a good conversation. We do grammar, but then we do a lot of speaking as well. What did you learn in Japanese class?
all I can remember is the deshita at the end. That means past tense.
Oh, you remember? Crazy, uh, brother. So
Then we
two.
had to do introductions that we were not expecting. We had to introduce ourselves in front of the whole class because we didn't realize that we were entering a new semester. And so they made us do a whole new like introduction, and we're like, "Minasan konnichiwa."
Konnichiwa. It's fun. It's cute.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, what did we do on Tuesday? I know we did Tuesday night. In the morning, we did like office,
Admin work.
yeah, office
Yeah.
work, admin work. We're
It's
here's
looking at my
working.
yeah.
Then at night, we went to this
Gospel
gospel
concert.
conference, not conference, gospel
Concert.
concert. Then a cafe down about 5 minutes from where we live. It's run by a Japanese pastor. He has the
Oh,
cafe on 6 days a week, and then 7 days a week. I mean, on the seventh day he rested. On Sunday, he turns into a church,
So it's a church cafe.
and he also hosts events. And
Mm.
so he hosted a musician who plays gospel music, and then a pastor came, and they were talking
Mhm.
about their campaign about doing missions across the
Yeah,
country.
they
That
do they call it revival mission, and
revival mission.
they basically go on tour. Think like the way that like Bible colleges go on tour, right? So they go on tour across the country into different Christian churches, cross like interdenominational.
Yeah.
So it's not like by one denomination, it's like they just go to different ones, and yeah, it's really cool.
Met some new acquaintances
Mhm.
there, made some new friends,
You made a pastor friend.
made a pastor friend. Yannette made a Bible study friend,
Yeah.
and so that was great. Wednesday was
So
more
in
admin.
the morning,
What did we
lots
do?
of admin.
Lots of admin stuff, more office work. Then in the evening, we went to a community event, where we are helping other people who have been to who are coming into Fukuoka for the first time, helping them get acquainted to the city, helping them make
Hmm.
friends, helping them learn how to navigate
It was
either.
called a welcome party.
Yeah, as a welcome. Yeah,
Community event,
it's a welcome
and there
party.
was 60 people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
so it
was
was really
crazy.
cool. You
Yeah.
got to meet a lot of cool people.
Yeah. And so
Um,
every Wednesday leading up to this past Wednesday was just
Planning
set up,
sessions.
planning, figuring out scheduling all that. So we go to that every Wednesday.
We are very about because we do ministry is full time for us, right? So
Yeah.
we don't outside of what we can bridge as ministry, right? Like we make our own schedule, so we get plugged into the community as much as we can. That's a
Hmm.
lot of what we do. Yeah.
Yes.
So like this is a nonprofit organization that we basically volunteer at,
Hmm.
joined as part of like I think the recipients of it at first, and then have started to get
Yeah, we
involved
were
on the planning
joining to
side.
just like receive, and then like we went there one day and we're like, we're setting up for this event,
And suddenly we were
and
running
you're here,
stuff, and I'm
and
like,
you
I
were
barely speak Japanese.
you were the head of games, and you are the head of food
Cooking.
and stuff. So it was
But what's funny is for this welcome party, right? So little backstory on this. What was really funny is that we were invited to come for this first planning session of this welcome party. And our friend who attends our game nights invited us to come to this session. And I feel like he was doing it on purpose,
had no
actually.
idea. We didn't.
We
He didn't
didn't
set us up. He didn't say, "Hey, you guys are going to be coming and be
no,
part of
but then
this
once we
welcome
got
party."
there, I realized that the whole concept of this welcome party, it was basically our game nights. That it was basically our game nights. They were like, okay, so we're gonna what should we do? Oh, we should do cooking. He kept saying like they should do cooking. You should make tacos,
They
Yana. You should
said,
make tacos. Or games. Who should be in charge of games? James is really good at games. And then we were like, okay. are you guys just trying to replicate our game night for this welcome party? I mean, that's cool.
Yeah,
So it was really fun,
yeah.
but
Great.
we enjoyed it.
It was
It
great.
was really great. Yeah.
Thursday was
Thursday was yesterday.
more of a chill day. We met up with our
Oh yeah,
supervising
The
missionaries
missionaries.
to just kind of catch up and get our
kind of like a team meeting.
team meeting kind of thing. Let them know what our plans are, how things have been going,
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
checking in spiritually, and also just checking in like physically, like that. They not just they don't just care about just the work, but they care about the people doing the work as well.
Yeah, and then we went.
Yeah.
Um, We were kind of eyeing some potential
Yeah, I've
church
been looking at a
buildings.
church building.
Yeah, so we've been different,
Yeah,
like trying to find church buildings, praying over buildings,
that was
that kind of thing. And
Thursday.
then,
Oh
yeah,
wait, today's Thursday. Hold on. Wow.
today's Thursday.
Wow.
That happened yesterday.
Yesterday.
Sorry.
All that happened yesterday.
Yeah, so yesterday morning we went to,
Wow.
yeah, we met up with our team. Our team meeting happened yesterday during the day. So admin was Tuesday morning and the gospel concert in the evening. Then
Mm,
and then Wednesday
We met up
morning
with,
we met up with a team meeting and
and
did the
then
prayer and then we went to the welcome party.
yeah,
And then today was a little bit more
today was
chill.
more.
Today was a little bit more chill. We caught up on some admin stuff. And then James went to actually some design work because we do a lot of design work for the church. So James was designing some Easter invites, some church cards. He went and got those print like ordered to get
Or
printed.
yeah,
I'll be picking them up tomorrow, and then tomorrow morning, James will go to the
to
airport first thing in the morning because he's flying to Okinawa for our Southern Regional Conference. He has to be there for the business meeting at night. I'm staying home because I have another community event that I'll be
you sound
participating
so
in.
happy to be a part of it. Yeah, you just I'm staying behind.
Yeah. Well, I am excited though. So I'm doing
Yeah.
this. So another like nonprofit that I got to be a part of not too long ago, teaching actually a cooking class, an international cooking class. But this time they asked me to come back and do
Wow.
a lecture. So I will be doing like a lecture on building bridges across multicultural communities. So I'll be doing that for a
Mhm.
nonprofit that focuses on basically teaching Japanese people about foreigners.
hmm
And yeah, so I'll be doing that tomorrow night. And then I'll catch up with James on Saturday for the conference. And then we'll be there until next
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
And that's
So
what
that'll
so
be
each week looks a little different. The things that stay the same,
Mhm.
usually we always have language class on Mondays,
Mhm.
the community event on Wednesdays. On Fridays, we usually do our game nights.
Oh yeah,
So
that's right.
this Friday we're not
We're
because
not
we're
doing game night.
traveling,
Yeah.
but normally we do every Friday.
Yeah.
We're here in town, we'll do a game night.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I know you kind of already covered this, but how has living in Japan shaped or changed your perspective on faith and your ministry?
Bum, bum,
Those are
bum. How has it changed my perspective on faith and ministry? I don't know if I'm gonna answer this question well, but I because I
I got
I
something if you're
go
waiting.
for it.
Okay. I always got something.
Yeah.
Um, I think for me, it's taught me that ministry, and even though I've known this for a long time,
Yeah.
but it's taught me that ministry can be anything.
Yes.
Um, and I think
Yeah.
it's not just taught it, but it's reinforced it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That ministry definitely can be anything. Um, for me, whenever I came to Japan, this is the fourth country I've lived in, but it's the first time that I'm in a country where I don't speak the language fluently. And so that was an adjustment,
Yeah.
a hard adjustment, I will admit. And I think when it comes to ministry, the thing that really challenged me is I am now 29 years old. And but when I got here, I realized when I got here that in the move, I had kind of created this idea within myself of who I was in God and who I was in my ministry. Like what, you know what I mean? Like you kind of put yourself in a box without realizing it. And so I
Yeah.
understood at that point, like I had grown through my 20s to understand what I was good at and what I wasn't. Okay. I had tried the things that I wasn't good at, and I'd realized that's not for me, someone else's ministry. And I had realized the things that I was good at, right? And I was actively involved in those things. And I felt like I was working in the things, just to put it plainly, the things that I was good at, I was working in, right? So it was like, oh yeah, I'm fulfilling my purpose. And then God moves me to Japan,
Mhm.
and suddenly a lot of what I would be able to do naturally, like in the UK, I taught discipleship classes. I translated because it was like I spoke English and Spanish, and we had a Spanish church. So I preached quite often in Spanish, and I translated it from English to Spanish to English. I did these things.
Yeah.
I worked at the Bible school. We had a Bible school, and so there was this area of church planning that we were doing as well. And I suddenly get here and I realize uh none of those things are ministries I am now actively involved in. None of those things matter here. None of what I was good at before matters here. And it was like this really rude awakening, because I was like, okay, I have to figure out what I'm meant to do here. And suddenly, like, I could have been the best at whatever other thing, but that doesn't actually translate to anything here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't actually. Now I can be, maybe I was a little bit hard on myself at first, because in some things, like knowing Spanish has helped us build some connections, or, different things like that, but not in the same way, because church and ministry look different here. Like, you're not, it's just it's just not the same. I'm not doing translation because I don't know Japanese, right? So like I don't know Japanese like that. So translation ministry that formed at one point such a big part of my identity is now like almost irrelevant for me. Not irrelevant, but not something that I can't actively do? So how has some of the perspective on faith and ministry changed is
Yeah.
that I've had to learn, okay, what can, so the cooking, the inviting people to my home, the friendships, all these things are important aspects of ministry that I have now learned are just as special and just as important and
Mhm.
just as needed as all those other things I was actively involved in before.
Mhm.
And faith wise, I mean, one of the similarities, I guess, between Scotland and Japan is that both do take a long time to win people to the Lord. So in that aspect, that part hasn't really um, hit me hard. But I think it's just this active reminder that um, I think in Japan, the hardest struggle sometimes for me is I feel so limited in my own capabilities. What can I actually do if I'm a foreigner? I'm an immigrant here who barely speaks the language. What can I actually do? How can I actually be effective? But God has taught me that it's not in any of the things that I do.
Yeah.
And it's all him. So it's given me a greater sense of faith. It's given me a greater sense of dependency in him. So really it's grown my faith, and it's giving reinforced that perspective of ministry that I always knew was there, but I guess I needed that reminder.
I think you have adapted well and you found new ways to minister
Mhm.
that were kind of already there. They were just, I think, like they were in Scotland, the other ones were emphasized. So here,
This is so funny. I laugh at myself sometimes. Go
what,
ahead.
what?
No, 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 just go ahead.
Here, you have had such an impact with your cooking.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, like, and I don't think you got as many opportunities as you wanted to do that in Scotland, but you got like so many
Mm,
opportunities to do that here, and it's gone such a long way. One, because it's good.
mhm,
Um, two, because it's made with love, and three, because like it's just genuinely it's different, and and that's one of the pluses here is that people in Japan they're looking for something different. They kind of
Yeah.
they kind of gravitate to most of them gravitate to things that are like different from the
Yeah.
culture. When you did that cooking class a couple months ago, people they lit up.
Mm.
And a lot
Oh,
of them,
that's
you know,
amazing.
they were taking leftovers home and all these things. And you know, you when we talk about doing things with excellence before the Lord as unto the Lord, the same way we watch this gentleman play the saxophone, and not
Mhm.
only, you know, he does gospel music, but he also plays for an actual orchestra, you know, and they bid on the news and stuff
Yeah.
because he plays so well. You know, your your gifts and your talents that they have brought you before people. They brought you these great opportunities, and I think, and I don't want you to take that for granted or
Mm.
underestimate that. Like all that whole thing came from you cooking one night, and the person that was here
Mm.
was like, "Oh, this is amazing. More people need to try this." And there's a food truck that comes to our house every not comes to our house
By our
by
house.
our house train station, and it's a Mexican food truck. It's a
Mexican Japanese
Mexican
fusion.
Japanese fusion, right? And I asked him if he had tamales before. So my wife, she makes amazing tamales. You should come over and try them. They're definitely worth the $3,000 ticket. And and so I said, have you had the tamales? He's like, no, I haven't had them. It's like, bro, you gotta have one. So we made some, saved some for him because we were gonna be away for some reason. I can't remember where we were. Um, and but the next time we saw him, gave him to him. He's like, "Yo, these are amazing." He said, "This is this is great," you know. And so don't take that for granted. The things that you have to offer people, because and this goes into what I want to say. It's the things that we think are small that have gone a
Mhm.
long way. The love that we have, the love that Christ has shown us, the love that we are showing to people is a love that most Japanese people have not encountered. And when we act in this way where we are having people over and we are having them to feel like calm and relaxed, and they're like, yo, this is different.
Mhm.
This is something that I've never felt before. I think had it be in any other country, had it be in the
Yeah.
States or in Scotland, we would take something like that for granted because it's so common. We'd be like, "Oh yeah, this is cool. Like we're just doing this. This is just
Mhm.
something like." But no, like this is. I'm seeing this as actual ministry. Not that it wouldn't be ministry in any other country, but just the effect that it has on people. You know, people they look forward to this time with us,
Yeah.
and because of that, people they open up to us and they trust us with these intimate parts of their lives, and we have
And
these
we don't take it lightly.
we don't take it lightly, and all of that comes from I say yo, I'm just being nice. I'm just being kind. I'm just showing you the love that God has shown
Shown me.
me. um and
Yeah.
but because maybe it's just not felt as much because it's just not expressed as much here when it happens. I think people are just drawn. So I think I've living in Japan, I've learned that that kindness, I shouldn't take it for granted. I don't know, I'm trying to form the thought because I had this thought the other day. Just like it's like, man, like people really just they really like feel comfortable with us, and I'm like, yo, we're just being nice. We're not doing anything special. Like
Yeah.
we're just doing like in the States, I just feel like this would not be anything special. Like I just feel like it was just like, okay, like your food and games, like it's cool, whatever. Um, but I feel like over here it just means so much and it goes so far. And
Yeah.
so I think I'm just learning to um, not take what God has given us,
Yeah.
his love, but also the way that he has shaped us, not to take that for granted.
Yeah. And if I
Yeah,
may say, like you mentioned, James, that, in the States, maybe in other countries, maybe this would be, maybe some people wouldn't even call it a ministry, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's just like, okay. But God has showed us in our time being here how much this matters to him for the mission to be accomplished, right? For people to get to know him, for people get to experience his presence, and it's so countercultural to maybe how we perceive, how we've been taught that ministry is, right? What ministry
yeah,
is. And if I may share and be vulnerable a little bit about some things, like I we talked today, in our conversation about those moments where you allow God to change your plans, right? And how, what advice can we give people, or what it's like to navigate that journey. I think us coming here, it was more than just God changing our location for me. I'm gonna be very vulnerable and I hope I don't shed a tear through it. But I think it was so much more than God changing my location. Um,
yeah,
Whew. Um, when I think about my journey in missions, right? And I had no idea what to expect at all. Like I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I said yes to God. When I said yes, I will go on that AYC trip. When I said yes, I will go to Bible school. When I said yes, I'll stay. Or yes, I'll go somewhere new. I had no idea. In any of those stages, I could have imagined, I could have dreamed, I could have hoped, I could have planned, but I really had no idea what I was getting myself into. Um, and so all I knew is that God was going to send me somewhere different than where I was born, different than where I grew up, different than where I currently lived. I didn't know what I was going to be doing. When I went to
yeah,
Bible school, I had no idea what God would use me in when it comes to ministry. And my time in Bible school, my time in the UK, it shaped me in such a way that God showed me that He could use me in an area that I never saw possible for me, and I never even considered. When I was in the UK, I got licensed. I got my ministerial license. Um, I would preach regularly. I would teach regularly, and um, before I ever got married, I moved to a different city to start a church. And so when I look back on those years of my life and I look back on what that looked like for me in that season of life, I think, you know,
yeah,
God called me to preach. God called me to teach. Now I come from a state where women preachers were not a thing. Women preachers were almost not, I can't even, maybe now they exist, but I can't even think back then of any women in my home district that were licensed. And they probably existed, but I didn't know of them. And so
yeah,
when I moved to the UK, I never even thought that could have been for me. But yet during that time, God called me, and God called me
yeah,
to take that step, and I did. And you know before I knew it, I was a licensed minister. Before I knew it, I was preaching, I was teaching, I was helping start works and these sort of things. And if I can be vulnerable and transparent,
Sure. Absolutely.
I allowed that to some extent to become part of my identity. That when God was calling me out of that, not only location, I will
yeah,
always naturally, as you have been able to tell by this podcast episode or interview, be a preacher at heart.
Hmm.
But I recognize that in this season of my life, I am ministering to people more through my cooking than I ever am through a preaching of a sermon.
Yeah.
And that was hard, if I can admit that. That was hard because
Yeah.
it was a change. It was different. And I had to put that in the altar
Mm.
and say, okay, God, like,
Mhm.
if this is what my ministry looks like now,
Yeah.
I will do it unto the Lord and I will do it wholeheartedly, the same or better than I ever did anything else I've done, because it all matters to God.
Yeah.
And it's all
Yeah.
part of this bigger picture. And I feel honored that God would ever give me the opportunity to serve him. At the end of the day, that's what we were doing, right? Serve him in that capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my level of service might look differently now, but it's all the same, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so I have to look back at the question. Um, that's part of what has changed in my perspective, changed in that faith.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't take it lightly, and I don't see it as less than because, to me, um, I can I'll cook for anyone and everyone, and if that's what God wants me to do, so, then that's cool. That's cool, because as the whole point isn't
Yeah.
isn't what I'm doing, right? The point isn't what I'm doing. The
Yeah.
point is what gets done.
Yeah.
And if at the end of the day we're all getting to heaven together, that's what matters.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're doing well.
Mhm.
You're adapting well, and I know that's been hard because you just want to talk with people. You want to share the love of God
Mm,
that you have, and it's hard when you have the thoughts of here and like you don't have the words to say. And I can see, how difficult, that has been. God has, I think you've adapted. I think God has grown you, and I think I'll even go as far as to say that there's been some restoring
mhm,
that has been done because of it, because you've rediscovered uh, your love for cooking for other people. You love, you rediscovered just, that creative side of you.
mhm.
And and I don't think that's gonna be it forever. I really don't. I do see you ministering to people here in Japanese. I think that's
One
the
day in like 30 years
no. It's not. It's not gonna. It's not gonna.
the language.
It's not gonna be. It's not gonna. It's not gonna be 30 years. I believe it will be sooner than you think, and it'll be because you're being obedient to the Lord. You're following Him, and you're doing everything as unto Him. I mean, the same way that we haven't mapped out any of this, and God has always has surprised us and blessed us in
Mhm,
this season of our lives. I think something will come along the way that'll blow us away.
mhm,
Just as important as like pulpit ministry is, it's also those like coffee shop moments. It's those board game nights you have. It's those cooking nights. Like that is just as important as ministering on a platform and on a pulpit. And I think if you can't do those small moments, you shouldn't be able to do those big moments. And just like seeing your guys' passion for the people in Japan and like your love for them, it's amazing. And like even just like through the screen, I can feel your love for these people, and I really thank you for that. Kind of to wrap up, I just wanted to know if you guys had any prayer points to like for not only me to pray about, but to share with the rest of my class and like the need you have, the need the country has.
We are in search of a church building.
Here in Fukuoka.
Here,
Mhm.
yeah, here Fukuoka, we're searching for a building where we can just meet regularly, and I mean we don't meet regularly yet now, but
We
we
rent a hall at a community center,
we rent
so
a hall at the community center. You know, we're paying to them,
we
and
don't have access to it all the time.
yeah,
So just having a building that we would have access to
yeah.
full
Yeah,
time.
a building we can have access to all the time. You know, if we need to do like some kind of community thing, like we have a space for that. And so we're praying and believing that something will come about
Mhm.
this year.
For our
Uh,
church, I think that would be a
yeah.
big thing.
For uh for the country, just pray that change would come quickly. I believe change is happening. I believe people are looking for something different. They're growing tired of things as they are, and I pray that God will continue to put us in the right place at the right time. That He would give us the words to say in Japanese. That
Mhm.
you know He would help us to get a great hold of this language, so that
Mhm.
we can communicate with people well. Um, and what else? You got anything?
Mhm. Continual unity within the body,
Yeah.
and that God will there's a few of us in the country, but we are very spread out
Mm-hmm.
as far as like ministers and churches, very spread out. And so there's a great work to be done in this country. There are so many cities
Yeah.
without churches. I mean, from where we are to the next church is probably 6 or 7 hours away. There's like a whole half of an island that's just the mainland that's not no church. We are the only church in the island that we live. So there's a need for churches. There's a need for church plants. I think I think a prayer. I think that God will just show us how we can work together with the body. Those of us who are here, and that we can work together for the advancement of His kingdom. Um, that God would raise up leaders amongst the Japanese congregations.
Yes.
We do have a couple of a few Japanese congregations, and I believe God is calling people even out of those churches to go out to start churches but there just needs to be
Hmm.
that maybe empowerment,
Yeah.
leadership training,
Yeah.
and growth, and ultimately that answer, right? That yes to God's call. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I so badly desire an outpouring in this neighborhood specifically, in this apartment complex. My prayer that I pray is, Lord, pour out your spirit on this apartment complex, or like this physical building,
Mhm.
this neighborhood, and then like this city, and then this country. But like, we are, there's like we live in a big apartment complex. So like, there's there's three buildings. We live on we live on the first floor of like a 14-story building,
Yeah.
and then
Oh,
each and then there's like two sides to this to the building, and there's three of them, and so it's like I look at all the windows and I count, like there's gotta there's at least one person, so it's gotta be at least like six to like 700 people or
Yeah.
something like that.
I think one time we actually did the math, and it was nearing 1,000 or something like
Yeah,
that.
I'm
People
I'm I'm being
just in our
I'm being
just in our blocks of apartments
yeah,
alone.
and it's just like
yeah,
I just want to reach these people, and like I've
yeah,
just been praying, like, Lord, just make a way. And you know like if I gotta knock on every single door just so that people can see my face and I can just let them know why we're here, like I'll do it. you know?
yeah.
um So just the boldness to do those things,
Mhm.
uh, the boldness to have those conversations, and the boldness to continue
Yeah.
on despite the rejections that we may face. So
I am definitely praying with you guys on for revival in Japan. Honestly, like even if it's starting off small, like God's gonna move.
yeah, don't despise the
Um,
beginning of small things. Amen. So, at the end of every podcast episode, there's a question that we ask to every person, but we're not gonna ask it. Becca's gonna ask it, and that question is,
what can the person listening to this podcast episode do to be a better global Christian?
"Oh, nice! You did that so
You
well. Good job."
should interview you next.
Uh, Learn how to cross the bridge. Uh, and and I'll read this verse first, and I'll explain it. And so, in First Corinthians 9, Paul says, dun, dun, "To the weak I became weak, that I might win the weak. I have become all things to all people, that by all means I might save some. I do it all for the sake of the gospel, that I might share with them in its blessings." And that's First Corinthians 9, verses 22 and 23. Amen. And and that has always been one of the verses that's been written on my heart, like ever since I started like doing missions or just trying to reach other people who are different from me. It's one of the reasons why I learn Spanish. It's one of the reasons like why I learned Japanese so long ago, and why I want to continue to learn other languages, because I just want to win as many people as I can. And I don't want language to be a barrier or a reason why someone isn't able to hear the gospel from me. And so I say to find ways to cross the bridge. And it's funny because we live in a place called Ohashi, which means big bridge. And 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 so when I say try to cross the bridge, what I mean by that is try to do things that will make it easier for people to get to you, to relate to you, to talk to you. And so for example, uh, there are people who go to other countries where the main language is not the same as their own, but they somehow expect things to still work and function well. And like that would be an example of not trying to cross the bridge. An example of trying to cross the bridge would be to download Google on your phone and to type things in English and or whatever your native language is, and to have it be translated in the language that you're trying to speak to someone to. That would be an example of trying to cross the bridge. An example of trying to cross the bridge would be to take some time and learn the language of the country that of the people of the country learn the language of the people of the country that you're trying to go to, learn the culture of the people that you're trying to go to, learn like what what they like, what they dislike, what their formalities are, what how they do their day-to-day life, what time they go to sleep, what time do they do dinner, what time do they do breakfast, because it's not the same. We've talked to people in different countries all over the world where it's just like, yo, we eat breakfast at like 11 a.m. and we eat dinner at like 9, because, that's when the sun
Guilty.
because that's when the sun goes up, that's when the sun goes down. Just different reasons, but you learn those things when you make those attempts to cross the bridge to someone, and you make it easier for them to get to you. There is a weight that is lifted off that person, and they go, I got someone that I can relate to. And we do it all the time. You may not notice it, but for just for an example, you with your classmates, you are all Canadian. I'm assuming you're all in this place. You're all like apostolics, and so it's easy for you guys to cross the bridge to one another. It's not hard, and it's easy for you guys to just like talk about anything and everything because you have so much in common. Now, when you guys were going to these mosques and all these different religious sites, and you probably I don't know if you guys talked to people there, um, but you might have found that it was hard to maybe have conversations because there were just different things that you guys were in different areas of life. You guys there's different things that you guys were relating on. So that bridge was just harder to cross. But if you guys had maybe studied the the religion of the mosque or the building that you would go into, you might have had like other things that you could talk about, and you're able to talk about these things with this person, and that person goes, "Okay, cool. Learn as much as you can before you go, so that way you can hit the ground running. You can make friends. You can uh, go to all these different places and you can interact with people and you can just share your life with people because um, at the end of the day, a lot of people they're just looking for someone to they're looking for someone who isn't going to take advantage of them. They're looking for someone who isn't going to use them because that's the world we live in, right? It's just like we're using other people. We're like taking advantage of them, use them, abuse them, leave them, whatever. Like, but we're people are looking for someone that they can find trust in, that they can find hope in, and we can be those people. As and if we love them enough to say, hey, let me do the work. Let me figure out you. And then once they find that you have crossed the bridge like 80, 90% of the way and they only have to do 20% of the work, the weight's lifted off and they're able to just open up to you. And you find that these conversations are so much easier to have. So learn to cross the bridge.
And across the bridge. And I would add to that to say, don't wait until you're overseas to do that. Because one of the advantages that a lot of these countries have, whether it be Canada, USA, others, is that the world is becoming more and more international, more and more diverse, more and more of a melting pot. And I can guarantee you, if you feel called to global missions and you feel a call to reach a specific demographic of people or go somewhere, those people already probably exist in your community, in your nation at least, somewhere. And the thing is, I don't say that to say don't go overseas. Of course, we need more laborers overseas, but um, make efforts into those communities that are in your backyard
Yeah.
because you can make a global impact wherever you are,
Yeah.
you know? And if I may, I always think my go-to answer for that question would always used to always be flexible, be adaptable, and those are still very much, I guess, easy advice I would give to people. Flexibility in missions is very key. um, Being flexible and adaptable, whether it be your plan, whether it be what you're doing, whether it be your day-to-day life, you have to be willing to be flexible, to be adaptable. Like James said, even adaptable, adapt in the culture as a way of building that bridge, walking through that bridge, but also just adaptable in your ministry, adaptable in your expectations, the list goes on and on. But one thing that came to mind for some reason right now, um, and I don't think about this often, but I think about when I first felt a call to missions. I was really young. I was 17 years old, and I was very young. in general. And I was very young in Christ, in the sense of, mm, I look back now and that was 12 plus years ago, right?
Hmm.
And I know it was the call of God.
Yeah.
I know I had been hearing the voice of God, and I've been hearing that voice of God ever since. And I know that it was God calling little 17-year-old me who, like, honestly, like, let me just be very transparent. Like, my hair goes down to past my rear end at this point. But back then, it was not there yet. It was like maybe like somewhere up here. Like, I'm still getting the hang of a lot of things. On the outside, you could have looked at me and been like, she didn't hear from God. You know what I mean? Um, like, what does she know? She barely knows God, From the outside, you could judge me in that way, and people did. And see, my biggest mistake as a young person is that I was very naive. And I remember one time, it was my first and last time I ever went to church camp because, no, not because of this, but my secrets about here. But basically, I remember there was this one like round table conversation, and it was like a hyphen camp, and people were like going around sharing like their callings, right? And like what they felt God was calling them to do. And people would say, "Oh, I feel called to be a preacher. I feel called to be a pastor's wife. I feel called to do this, that, whatever." And I remember I was very nervous to say anything because I remember I hadn't like vocalized it much. And I decide to say something. I decide to say, I feel called to be a missionary. And I remember the response. And I remember one boy's specific response. And he was like, "Are you sure?" Like he questioned it very openly. He was like, "Are you sure that you heard from God, about that?" Because um I'm trying to remember exactly what he said, but to paraphrase, he was basically questioning because he was like, "Are you sure you heard for God? I know that like you're very new in church and everything, and I'm only saying this because I feel called to be a missionary." And he was basically saying like, "I feel called to be a missionary, so like I don't think you actually feel called to be a missionary."
Wow.
And what's funny about this, well, I shouldn't say it's funny because he could still be called to be a missionary, is that he's not a missionary. Okay. Like he never left. He never left. But my point in all this is that sometimes, my point in sharing that story is that my background told a lot of people that I couldn't be a missionary. And so, speaking to someone, if you feel called to be a missionary, trust what God has given you and let him open the doors in his time. Don't force a door open. Don't try to prove anything to anyone.
Mm.
You just continue to be faithful. You just continue to serve him. You
She's
just
cooking.
continue to be submitted to him, and he will open the right doors. He will open the right doors at the right time. He will lead you in every direction as long as you continue to be faithful, as long as you continue to be humble and submit yourself to him. Don't there are few voices that do matter, right? You obviously listen to your pastor, listen to your spiritual leadership, but there will also be those voices that may try to discourage you along the way and may try to use whatever it may be to tell you you're not good enough. But the reality is, if this conversation has told you anything, Becca, and others listening, if this ends up at the podcast, if this conversation has said it and told you anything, it's that God uses normal people, right?
A
God
Yes.
has God
to the
we
man.
we are literally just normal people
Yeah.
just living our life for God overseas, And I don't say that to
Yeah.
diminish the call, but I say that because sometimes people don't do it because they are scared. They're scared that they're not good enough. They're scared they're never going to amount to it. They're scared that they're never going to reach this level of something they built up in their head that they need to be. And don't let that fear stop you. Don't let those
'Cause
voices
I'm
stop you
just a nomad.
because we are just normal people. And
Wanna
the more
tell
Yeah.
missionaries,
everybody
fellow missionaries, intermediate missionaries, missionaries that have been in this
about
longer than me, career
son.
missionaries that we meet, that we look up to, the more people we meet in this, we realize They're just normal people who are just living for God and submitting their lives to Him. So yeah, don't let those voices. Okay, that's him shutting me down.
No, I'm not saying it's background music. No background music. You think you're trying to tell everybody.
But yeah, anyway, that is my
About
that is my
somebody.
my advice.
You say my soul. Amen.
Thank
Amen.
you.
Oh,
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to speak with me. It's been a long time, so thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, this is.
Oh, well, thank you so much for basically taking your entire morning to spend it with us.
Yeah, thank you. We
No, thank
had a lot of fun.
you.
I hope you did too.
It was a lot of fun. It
Yeah,
was a lot of insight as well.
yeah, yeah. And you better get like an A plus plus, whatever.
Oh, yes.
Who's grading this? Is this Brother Scott?
Yeah, it's Brother Scott.
Brother Scott, you have to give her an A plus 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 extra credit.
Yes, I'm gonna just like
Chop that.
drop this.
Put it at the end of the presentation.
Yes.
Yes.
The Uttermost podcast is made for the Christian that wants to be global and the person who wants to understand Christianity across the world. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you for listening to the Uttermost podcast, the bridge between you and the ends of the earth. And remember, the end of the bridge is closer than you think. Now go and be a witness.